Hi, my name is Paul Carlisle, and if you have type 2 diabetes, type 1 diabetes, you've been diagnosed as pre-diabetic, or you have a loved one with any of these conditions, then stop what you're doing and listen, as these conditions and more can be completely treated by yourself from the comfort of your own home.
I'm talking about
without
all
having to
natural,
visit a single
safe,
doctor or
yes,
surgery. That's right. Safe treatment for diabetes. I'm talking about not wanting to cover up your diabetes symptoms through so-called diabetes management medications, but the desire to treat the root cause of your diabetes head-on, treating the root of the weed that is diabetes and improving your life, all naturally, all safely, all by following this one-of-a-kind method backed up by solids. And honestly, I still would be had I not the opportunity to experience firsthand the totally astounding properties of this 3-week diabetes method. The beauty of this method, which I'll get to in just a moment, is that it works. Because it targets a strange and previously overlooked body tissue that we've had since birth, and that we never lose for our entire life. No matter if you're 8 years or 80 years old, no matter if you have uncontrolled blood sugar, type 1, type 2, or even pre-diabetes, no matter if your doctor has told you your diabetes is permanent and irreversible, no matter if you tried and failed with every single diabetes treatment or medication out there. And this is why I'm so excited to bring this to you today, right this second. The shockingly simple, natural diabetes treatment method that has not helped just me, but to this day helped over 29,854 people of their diabetes. I started off on metformin. It made me sick and unable to breathe. He then put me on Amaryl, which only made me put on pounds of fat and dangerously lowered my blood sugar. He even put me on Actos, which made me tired, sick, and turned my skin yellow. Each time I didn't want to think of the damage these so-called revolutionary drugs were doing to my body. In fact, a 2007 study in the New England Journal of Medicine linked the diabetic medicine Avandia to 43% increased risk of heart attack and 64% higher risk of cardiovascular death compared to patients treated with other methods. I'm sure you can appreciate the frustration and hopelessness I was feeling. Nothing worked, and I was day by day damaging my organs and health and increasing my risk of death. For what? Just to help maintain my blood sugar levels? It didn't seem like the right way to go about it. But what else was there? I soon developed worrying heart problems which culminated in an excruciating pain in my chest. I was rushed to the hospital. I felt sick to my stomach. Would I suffer the same fate as my father? Was this really it? Was this the last time I would see my children and wife? I lay on the hospital trolley. Tears rolled down my eyes as I clutched my wife's hand so tight it went numb. Call it fate. Call it what you like. But lucky for me, and the fact I can share the story with you today, I survived. This was a wake-up call. If I continued on the path I was on, a path that you and so many others are following, it would be a surefire way to destroy my body from the inside out. A big pharma-endorsed ticket to an early grave. But the course of my life changed as I sat in the wheelchair waiting to be discharged from the hospital. I heard my name. Paul. Paul. I turned around and it was an old doctor of mine, Dr. Evans, from when I was younger. A highly acclaimed doctor. Talented, articulate, and vastly intelligent. What happened to you? He asked. After I explained my situation, he proceeded to tell me something I found hard to swallow at first. Unbeknownst to me, when it comes to diabetes medications and treatments, the medications prescribed go through the shortest clinical trials possible. Trials cost the pharmaceutical companies billions. And what if they find bad side effects? They ignore them. To cancel a drug after so long would be a huge loss of revenue. Instead, they invest heavily in medical establishments to ensure the medications are prescribed without a second thought of the consequences. This included the very hospital I was treated in, my doctor, and most likely your doctor too. You see, when a hospital or doctor is sponsored and backed by pharmaceutical money, you can only imagine what sort of influence this has on the prescriptions of medications. The cold truth is that the drug companies are publicly traded companies on the stock exchange. This means that they're compelled to put their bottom line before anything else, including your health. So if they see a way to make billions year after year after year at the expense of drug users like you, they'll take it without a second thought. And if they need to cut some corners and tell some lies in order to make that happen, well, that's just business. Take the big pharma drug maker GlaxoSmithKline, for example. In 2012, they agreed to a whopping $3 billion settlement over marketing practices of many of their drugs, including the well-known diabetes drug Avandia. The charges included illegally marketing drugs, forging drug safety data, bribing doctors to promote dangerous and expensive drugs, ripping off Medicare and Medicaid, and lying about the effectiveness and safety of drugs. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. For them and many other pharmaceutical companies who are committing criminal activity daily, it's a drop in the ocean considering their yearly turnover can be in the hundreds of billions. Big Pharma considers legal settlements to be just another cost of doing business. And if you think the FDA is one body looking out for you, you've got another thing coming. Many of the doctors who sit on the FDA were put there by the very companies whose drugs they'll be testing. Combine that with the millions these companies give the FDA, and I don't have to tell you how often this supposedly neutral body will make a decision that will hurt these companies, even if it would help you, me, and the rest of the country. And there I was, thinking the drugs I was prescribed were in my best interests. How very wrong I was. The sad but inescapable truth is, Big Pharma's diabetes drugs are physically incapable of curing and finally ending your diabetes. They're designed that way. It ensures those who take them remain a sufferer of diabetes till the day they die, which in turn ensures that these companies have a never-ending flow of money. Great for their execs and shareholders. Not so great for us and millions like us. Let me tell you, when he was done explaining this to me, I was nearly sick to my stomach with rage. I didn't want to believe what he was saying, but it made way too much sense for me to ignore. It's one of those things that you don't think about because we figure we might as well not get all riled up over something we can't change. But then Dr. Evans kept talking. He told me about research in 2009 published in the Journal of Phytomedicine. It found that the herb named bitter melon was actually far superior to the diabetes medication Avandia in the management of diabetes and its complications. Dr. Evans explained that natural remedies and treatments for diabetes do exist, and they exist in abundance. The same remedies that our ancestors used long before we knew about them. But you can't catch your easily bought doctor telling you about them, that's for sure. And Paul, he said, I'm going to tell you something, but you must not tell anyone it came from me. And then it was finally revealed. The secret that changed my life and thousands of those after me. Turned out, the control of my glucose could all be influenced by something called brown adipose tissue, or brown fat. Fat? Isn't that what I want to avoid? Not all fat. While the media, doctors, and hospitals tell you all fat is dangerous and bad, this is not the case. Unlike white fat, which lowers insulin sensitivity, researchers have found that brown fat actually improves insulin sensitivity and blood sugar control. It's the perfect anti-diabetic tissue, and we all have it. Activate and supercharge your brown fat, and then supercharge your insulin sensitivity, he said. A recent July 2014 study published in the peer-reviewed Diabetes Journal concluded that, and I quote, these results demonstrate a physiologically significant role of BAT, or brown adipose tissue, in a whole-body energy expenditure, glucose homeostasis, and insulin sensitivity in humans, and support the notion that BAT may function as an anti-diabetic tissue in humans. This was simply remarkable. Why hadn't this been on the news? Why had no one heard of this? And the benefits of brown fat don't just stop there. Research shows that as brown fat dissipates energy as heat, it can thus counteract weight gain and improve fat-burning metabolism. So not only would activated brown fat help regulate blood glucose, it would help me effortlessly lose weight. The best part is that all humans, no matter which age, no matter if you're type 1, type 2 diabetes, prediabetes, no matter the extent of your condition or the levels of blood sugar, can not only manage their diabetes, but actually treat it by activating and increasing the amount of brown fat in their body. Everyone has this ability, and everyone always will. But I was itching to ask, how can I actually increase and activate my brown fat? Honestly, Paul, I don't know, said Dr. Evans. This cutting-edge research had only recently been released, and was desperately being suppressed by the whole diabetes medication industry. With the increase in activation of brown fat in my body, coupled with natural remedies which could be picked up at my local grocery store, I could finally improve my blood glucose and naturally treat myself of this disease. I had the time, Dr. Evans didn't. But I had motivation. All I didn't have was people to test on. So against the wishes of my family, I decided to use myself as a human guinea pig. I got to work that very night with the knowledge and guidance of Dr. Evans. I spent the next 3.5 months studying countless medical journals and papers, systematically testing every natural food, herb, spice, and method to increase and activate my brown adipose tissue, control my blood sugar. Admittedly, a lot of tests didn't work, but when some did, they worked better than I could have imagined. And as time went by, my list of proven solutions to activate the brown fat, increase brown fat cell count, and control blood sugar grew and grew. I was noticing drastic results with myself as well. My blood sugar went down after just 1 week. It was working. After a total of 3 weeks, my blood sugar was fantastic. Plus, I lost a whopping amount of weight in that time. Even Dr. Evans wasn't expecting results like this. It was almost, I'm here, after all. I'm no longer trapped by my diabetes. I can finally eat and enjoy pasta, pizza, whatever I like with no fear of my blood glucose shooting through the roof. My wife says I'm a changed man. I wake up every morning overflowing with energy and enthusiasm. I no longer live in fear of amputations, heart attacks, and strokes that both diabetes and the nasty side effects of diabetic medication would have dealt me. I don't have to put up with the frustrations of checking my blood glucose throughout the day. I shocked my regular doctor when he saw my statistics. You should have seen his face. He had this priceless look of complete and utter confusion when he saw my results. But he couldn't argue with the numbers. All this just by making sure I kept my brown fat activated. And part of that has to do with that little 30-second trick I'm sure you're itching to know about. What's this thing you can do in 30 seconds to help activate your brown fat? Take a cold shower. You heard me correctly. One of the ways to activate brown adipose tissue is to subject your body to the cold. Research concluded that cold-induced shivering, which is an energy-inefficient mechanism, stimulates the highly efficient brown adipose tissue to maintain the core temperature of the organism. In other words, 30 seconds under a cold shower will stimulate your brown fat. With my miraculous recovery, along with my plethora of discovered foods, methods, and tricks, such as my 30-second trick, I had accomplished my mission to finally treat my diabetes. To stick two middle fingers up at Big Pharma and do what everyone else has been too scared to do for so long. Cut the cord. Now my mission was to let everybody else out there needlessly suffering from this debilitating disease know how they could do it too. I sat down with Dr. Evans and we got to work collating everything that worked for me. All my methods, all my research into brown fat, natural remedies, and treatments for diabetes. For the next 6 weeks, we worked around the clock to take my natural treatment program and turn it into a simple, easy-to-follow guide named The Diabetes Miracle. To the dismay of his straight-edge Big Pharma promoting colleagues, Dr. Evans allowed me to leave a handful of copies of our complete guide in the waiting room of his clinic.